Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in the United States, despite decades of research, public health campaigns, and advances in medical treatment. The American Heart Association's 2026 Heart Disease and Stroke Statistics Update reports that while deaths from heart disease and stroke have declined modestly, cardiovascular disease still kills more Americans than any other cause, and risk factors including obesity, diabetes, kidney disease, and high blood pressure continue to rise across the population. Tara Schmidt, registered dietitian and lead dietitian for the Mayo Clinic diet program, identifies diet as one of the most powerful modifiable levers in this equation. Unlike genetics and certain environmental exposures, what you eat every day is something you can change. Schmidt's list of 15 heart-supportive foods covers the full nutritional landscape of a cardiovascular protective diet, with specific mechanisms that explain why each one belongs on the list. Cold water fatty fish sit at the top of Schmidt's list because of their uniquely high content of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. Mackerel, sardines, trout, salmon, and albacore tuna are the richest dietary sources of these compounds. Omega-3s lower triglycerides, reduce systemic inflammation, and contribute to modest blood pressure reduction. The American Heart Association recommends at least 2 servings of fatty fish per week as a cornerstone of a heart-healthy diet. Legumes, which include all varieties of beans, lentils, chickpeas, and peas, earn Schmidt's strong endorsement across the board. Each type of legume has its own distinct micronutrient profile, but all share the core combination of plant protein, soluble fiber, and minimal saturated fat. Soluble fiber from beans directly lowers LDL cholesterol by binding bile acids in the digestive tract, forcing the liver to draw on circulating cholesterol to replace them. Regular legume consumption also supports blood pressure control and glycemic regulation, both relevant to cardiovascular risk. Schmidt's practical entry point for reluctant bean eaters, mixing beans into ground meat in tacos, chili, or soups to ease the transition. Healthy unsaturated fats represent a broad category covering olive oil, avocado and avocado oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish. The mechanism is well established. Replacing dietary saturated fats with polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats lowers LDL cholesterol, reduces triglycerides, and decreases the progression of atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque inside arterial walls. This substitution effect is one of the most consistently demonstrated nutritional interventions in cardiovascular research. Nuts and seeds contribute through multiple pathways simultaneously. Almonds, walnuts, and pistachios provide healthy fats, fiber, and vitamin E. Schmidt also notes their polyphenol content, compounds that protect cells from oxidative damage. Chia seeds and flax seeds bring a different omega-3 form, ALA, along with lignans, plant compounds with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Both nuts and seeds feature prominently in the Mediterranean diet and the MIND diet, dietary patterns with substantial evidence for cardiovascular and cognitive longevity benefits. Tofu and edamame represent soy-based foods that Schmidt highlights partly because they serve as a nutritionally dense substitute for processed or high-saturated fat animal proteins. A 2020 study found that people who ate at least 1 serving of tofu per week were 18% less likely to experience a heart attack compared to those who ate it less than once monthly. Both tofu and edamame contain isoflavones, plant compounds that protect against atherosclerosis through anti-inflammatory and estrogen receptor-mediated pathways. Dark leafy greens, including spinach, kale, and collard greens, deliver carotenoids, phytosterols, and polyphenols that collectively protect against oxidative stress, lower LDL cholesterol, and reduce stroke risk. Schmidt emphasizes that the specific vegetable matters less than eating vegetables consistently in varied colors. Carotenoids are found in orange sweet potatoes and carrots, as well as dark greens. Phytosterols are concentrated in broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and polyphenols appear in asparagus and artichokes. Any vegetable eaten regularly represents meaningful cardiovascular protection. Berries and cherries, specifically raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, and tart cherries, are among the highest antioxidant foods in the typical diet. Their red, purple, and blue pigments come from anthocyanins, a class of flavonoids that Schmidt identifies as specifically protective against heart disease. Anthocyanins improve endothelial function, reduce arterial stiffness, and suppress inflammatory pathways that drive cardiovascular disease progression. Oats and whole grains reduce cardiovascular risk through their fiber content, particularly the beta-glucan fiber in oats, which Schmidt identifies as the primary mechanism behind oat-associated cholesterol reduction. Beta-glucan forms a viscous gel in the digestive tract that traps bile acids and prevents their reabsorption, lowering LDL in the same way legume-soluble fiber does. Research cited by Schmidt found that people with the highest whole grain intake were 13% less likely to die from cardiac arrest than those eating the least. Fermented dairy products including yogurt and kefir contribute probiotics, protein, vitamin D, and calcium. Schmidt tailors fat content to individual patients and their overall dietary trade-offs. Yogurt specifically has shown benefit in studies of hypertensive adults, where regular consumption is associated with lower blood pressure outcomes. Dark chocolate with at least 50% cocoa solids contains flavanols, a subclass of flavonoids that lower blood pressure and inflammation, reduce LDL cholesterol, and promote arterial relaxation through nitric oxide pathways. Schmidt is deliberate about specifying dark chocolate or pure cocoa rather than milk chocolate, which contains substantially less cocoa solids and higher sugar and saturated fat content. Chili peppers contain capsaicin, the compound responsible for their heat, which has anti-inflammatory properties, and emerging research support for preventing atherosclerosis and modestly lowering blood pressure. Research into capsaicin's cardiovascular mechanisms is ongoing, but the anti-inflammatory effect is well established. Beyond specific foods, Schmidt addresses sodium as a dietary factor with direct relevance to cardiovascular health. The majority of excess sodium in the American diet comes not from home cooking or table salt, but from ultra-processed packaged foods and restaurant meals. For people managing hypertension, reducing sodium from these sources has more impact than eliminating discretionary salt entirely. Practical flavor substitutions including herbs, spices, lemon juice, and vinegar allow satisfying cooking with minimal sodium. The broader pattern these 15 foods represent is not coincidental. They collectively form the nutritional architecture of the Mediterranean diet and similar evidence-based dietary patterns: abundant vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, healthy fats, and fish, with limited saturated fat, added sugar, and sodium. Heart disease risk is substantially determined by the cumulative diet pattern over years and decades, making consistent choices across these food categories more consequential than any single meal or ingredient. Schmidt's framing is worth holding as the practical takeaway. Diet is one of the most significant modifiable risk factors for cardiovascular disease, sitting alongside exercise, stress management, and tobacco use, as levers that individuals can meaningfully act on, regardless of genetic predisposition or family history. The 15 foods on this list are not exotic or expensive. Most are already familiar to people who cook regularly at home. Cold water fish, beans, olive oil, nuts, leafy greens, berries, oats, and yogurt are staples available in grocery stores at accessible price points. The gap between knowing what supports heart health and actually eating it consistently is not primarily a knowledge problem, but a habit and environment problem. Schmidt's suggestion to blend beans into ground meat dishes illustrates a practical approach. Rather than overhauling eating habits entirely, making incremental additions and substitutions that accumulate into a meaningfully different overall dietary pattern over time. That kind of gradual dietary shift, sustained across years, is precisely what the epidemiological evidence shows translates into reduced cardiovascular risk at the population level.